was a little bit down about that, but you know, weren't we all? And first world problems. So what's the other good? So we had talk to the community. We had the bad being that, and then the rules FAQ. So good or bad? I don't really mind. I wasn't that fussed, to be honest. Everyone. The one thing that seemed to sort of everyone's toys were out of prams, or certainly a vocal group of people was the melt bomb rule. Had been clarified or changed. It's up to you how you want to read it. And so here's my take. I played it as the multi-bomb rule. I definitely played it that way. My gaming group, we played it that you could multi-bomb, multi-grenade or whatever as well. We certainly played it that way. That's our interpretation of it. I ran a 20-man assault marine squad against Mike once with melter bombs. Really expensive unit. I think it cost, and this was when the wording was it was 50 points for the whole squad rather than pay per person, which they changed eventually. So you could take 20 men and put 50 points and you get melter bombs from all of them. They clearly realised that was the wrong wording and changed it in subsequent books, which was in the first black book. Anyway, they were an absolute savage unit, and they basically hopped around the table blowing up contemptors and tanks and swung the whole game for us. And I remember at the end of that game, me and Mike were a bit like, okay, they're heavy, they're a badass unit, running into a contemptor and destroying it. Anyway, we played that that way for a while. I never ran that squad again because I just felt like it was a bit gross, and I've never read a book where the story shows of Marines kind of going in and beating up dreadnoughts like that. It's always like the lucky one guy gets a melter bomb and normally dies in the process. But anyway, that wasn't the point. We certainly played it as the multi rule. And then last year, I think it was last year, me and Mike went and played in a doubles heresy event, Throne of Skulls up at Warhammer World. And one of the guys we were playing, I went to sort of throw a load of grenades, and he was like, "Oh, you can't do that anymore." And I was like, "Huh? What?" And he said, "Yeah, they've clarified how it's meant to work." And at the time, I don't think they'd written an FAQ, or maybe they had, but he kind of re-explained it, and we read it, and we were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense." So for the past year, we have played, maybe even a year and a half. I'm not sure. It might have been last year, but we've certainly played it one bomb, and I've heard lots of the reasons that it's about redundancy, and that's what the price is. And I kind of get it. I was okay with it. I think the redundancy makes sense. I always sort of look at things about price costs, and if you put 10 men and you give them those things, you're paying 50 points. It's like you've got redundancy. You're getting if you're hitting vehicles, you're getting something that maybe auto hits and has got more chance of a power fist than damaging. So that was interesting, but I think I thought it was good that they did that FAQ. I like that, of the rules. I think that it was cool the way they asked the community what do they want to know, and it's interesting to see how people are just playing it like that rule. Some people are like, oh, they got it wrong, it's dumb. How are you going to deal with the Leviathan now? And the thing is, in my opinion, you're not supposed to deal with the Leviathan with a unit of Marines. That's supposed to terrify a unit of Marines. You're supposed to stay away from it. And if you do end up in close combat and you get that lucky melter bomb on it and blows it up, that's quite thematic. I think 10 assault Marines going against the Leviathan are going to blow it up every time. And points balancing, for me, just doesn't work. That's not how it's meant to be. It's just my opinion. I'm sure people again. I honestly couldn't give a shit if that's your opinion, but anyway, that's how I feel about it. I think it's interesting seeing, like, this year I decided I was going to play in a bunch of tournaments, and I don't know what all the rules clarification are on it yet, but some of them are like, oh, we're not using the multibomb FAQ, we're going to use our own rules, which is you can multibomb. And I'm like, that's cool. I think it's fine as long as you know going into it, because like you don't want to go into that having spent a load of points on things like Leviathans and Dreadnoughts that you're going to go and smash people, and then all of a sudden an assault squad or a breacher squad can pull your pants down in one turn. So as long as you know, it's fine. You can play tactically to deal with it, I guess, or you can lean into it yourself. If I'm taking an assault squad, which I do have in my word bearers, I might take the points for melter bombs, depending on the ruling. If the ruling's single, I probably wouldn't, to be honest. I probably wouldn't take them because it's expensive, and I probably wouldn't be using them to try and do that job. I've got other stuff to try and deal with armor or deal with Leviathans, or so I do that. But yeah, FAQ was cool. I mean, I think it definitely shows that. What I think is, I actually think that 8th edition, and I could be way wrong, but I think 8th edition rules might be written better. I think that was an experiment to ask the community, what do you really not understand about our rules? And not in a what do you not understand, but more about like, what have we not written very well? Because they're not the most well written rules. It's getting a good beat going on. I actually think it's a lie. I don't think it's the kid. I think it's the dad. They just made the kid go around and say, I've got a drum kit, mister, do you mind if I play it? And we're like, no man, you go for it. Be the next Dave Grohl. And he's like, okay, cheers. And I bet he's playing Call of Duty and his dad's just smashing it out, which is cool if that's the case. So yeah, FAQ, where it's written. Yeah, so I think it's like them. I think it's a move. Like if I was doing that, if we were doing something with one of our games and we wanted to ask our community what, those sort of questions, it's because you want to change, right? You want to make sure that you do it better for them the next time round. If ever we do a Survey Monkey on any game, it's because we're genuinely interested in how you read it. Because you design a game and you think, oh, everyone's going to get it, everyone's going to understand how it works, and then you put it out there and you're like, what? Okay, you don't understand how it works. Why not? And often it's the way you've written the rules or you've made it or whatever, and you've got to kind of take that on the chin and try and improve. So I think it was a exercise for them to go, right, here's how we need to write a rule book so that we're not having to dick about with FAQs for forever. And I think some of it could be really simple examples, and I think with the community stuff now, how cool would it be if they released a book and the guys did an hour a week where they were like, here is how you do this, here is an example of how you do this, and it's not hard to pick out some of those ones that start to become a bit contentious. Whenever you have a game and there's some contention around how something goes, it's consistently, I think it's very consistent. I think one is multi-charge and measuring range. That used to be a bit, when it first came in, that was one where we'd certainly have to talk and debate about it a lot. Other ones might be like rules conferring. So if your character has a certain rule, does it confer to a unit or doesn't it? Stuff like that. Anything that's a bit, there's consistency is all I'm saying. And I think they might now hopefully learn from that in the way they've written this rules, build the new rule set in a much cleaner fashion. And there's loads of systems out there that I've got great examples of how to build a clean rule set. I think oh man, my brain's gone dead on it now, but the one you play with cards that's a bit kind of steampunk, Malifaux, that rule book is such a joy to read and makes it really easy to understand the rules. And I'm not saying it should be a Malifaux type system, I'm just saying there's no excuse for writing bad rules, and they should be able to do it now. So that's my theory. I think it's let's work out all the stuff that's really confusing. It feels like there's lots, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to Age of Sigmar it. I think they've come out and said they're not, but I do think, you know, we might see a sort of slightly more streamlined version of stuff. And I don't, you know, they're not gonna ruin their cash cow. Clearly, Horus Heresy is making a lot of money for them at the moment as well. So I don't see them sort of ruining anything, but I do think that it was a good move. You know, I thought it was a really good move. I'm excited about playing in some tournaments this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. My bet is early in the year will be when the rules change, probably Q1 or very early Q2, because they need people to be getting into it, excited about it, have their tantrums, and then sort of be back up to full steam ahead in time for Christmas and the holiday season, where they'll make the majority of their money. So my guess is that's when it's coming out. What else was cool last year? Primarch's back in 40k. I think this is super exciting. It feels like they're moving the story on. I definitely read a lot. I've read every single Horus Heresy novel, and some multiple times. I'm reading Betrayer again at the moment because it's such a cool book, and I like to read stuff when I'm building armies to get some inspiration. So I'm reading that at the moment, and I'm glad I did, because I found out that you know, currently in that book, which is kind of the Calth Crusade book, I was not sure what colour to paint my chaplains, and last night I was reading away, and it describes how Erebus turns up in black armour now. The chaplain black armour is the way it's described, and it seems like, you know, after Istvan at least, they're all wearing black in those things. So I'm kind of glad I read that, because I wasn't sure which colour to do mine, but now I know which colour to do mine.